Are you ready?
This coverage is live and uncensored, so if you have any small children present, you may want to have them leave the room.
Welcome to the newest episode of My Take Radio's Beyond the Mic series. This week I am interviewing Misti Dawn. She is the owner of the naughtynerd.com. Hey, Misti, what's going on?
Hello. Not much. How are you?
Pretty good. Just give the listeners a little bit of a background about naughtynerd.com and how you guys came up with the concept for the site.
It is kind of like a female gaming community.
I would prefer not to.
Hey, we're in the car. It's a female gaming community, but our approach is a little different, as in, we're keeping it 18 and above because we just want it to be transparent and empowering to female gamers to be just like what women honestly say, not, be taken seriously as gamers, be taken seriously. Those stereotypes is kind of what broken down of female gamers. And we're hoping to, with the site, to do that through different things we have on there, like we have game reviews, obviously, but we also are doing a thing we call Speechcraft, and it's kind of just stream of consciousness from different girls. It could be anything from a concert they went to a date they had or anything like that. And then we're going to do live game reviews and actually stream the game while we're doing the review. And we also have a message board with a really strong community already.
Yeah, I actually saw your forums actually have quite a bit of diverse content. What do you feel is the big issue with female-centric gaming sites? Do you feel that they're too safe, or that they present themselves in a way that's disingenuous? How do you guys feel that you guys set yourselves apart from other female-centric sites?
I would say the other female sites I've gone to, I like them. I definitely like them for sure, but I feel like it's almost like coffee talk in the 50s for females. It's sometimes overpowering that it's like female, female, female. I want our site to be not necessarily, if you read it, it's not really gender biased as you're reading it. It's not male or female. It just is kind of concept. It's really hard to, I guess, put into words what we're trying to convey with the site. But I'm hoping by going there, people kind of get the feeling that we're wanting people to get.
Well, that's one thing I liked. You guys weren't preaching, you guys weren't basing approaching your audience in a divisive sort of way. I mean, most sites that I've seen that are geared towards female gamers, they kind of, I don't want to say they sugarcoat it, but they don't approach it with a harder edge. Like you guys, if a game sucks, you guys are more upfront about it and appeal to the regular gamer out there, which I like.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we just wanted to be honest, and I've been very flattered by a lot of the females that want to be involved and actually like the angle that we're taking with it.
And I saw you've done stuff with G4, with Comic-Con. Do you feel that most of these new mediums, G4 in particular, help or hinder the cause of what you're trying to do with your site?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. They cover adult conventions as well, gaming conventions, and, at gaming conventions, just the coverage itself, the women that usually involved that are portraying a certain image, so that people, whether G4s are making that image or not, it's the convention that's making that image. Just seeing that coverage, people might assume that's how those girls are, but then, G4 also has women that work there that are the opposite of that. But, it's just kind of impartial, perhaps, just showing things, how people are acting and how they're going, and you're seeing that reciprocated onto what you're watching.
Yeah, that's a gripe we've had, and I've taken G4 to task quite a few times with that, because it always feels like people are reading off cue cards, like there's not a genuine interest. It almost feels very, very, I guess you want to say audience driven, like they figure, look, we'll put a pretty girl that'll talk about games and we'll get that 18 to 34 demographic to instantly tune in, but those girls, when they're met by gamers, end up being ripped to shreds because all that stuff that's being portrayed on television is nowhere near accurate.
No, I totally agree. It seems like it's a very popular image to portray right now already. So they're thinking that pretty package will sell something every time, but people are becoming more and more interested with the actual concept and the people having those interests genuinely than people pretending them. Because you don't want to talk to someone about your favorite game and, you saw them on TV talking about it and they don't even really know what the game is. They were just paid to talk about it. And I think social media has really changed that as well.
Well, it's made the concept less taboo. Usually, the gamer girl demographic and even just the gamer girl interest groups themselves are so diverse now. Like, you usually see them portrayed in magazines, and it's always the pretty girl holding the Nintendo controller and, with the high socks and the short skirt, and that's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's the pinup portrayal, which is great. But we covered the New York Comic-Con this week, and we saw, they had the Frag Dolls there with Ubisoft and things like that, and they were promoting the game, and it was just regular girls having a good time promoting the game, which was good. But certain people were like, "Oh man, they're not dressed like we see them on the web," and stuff like that. Just you can hear the conversation on the show floor, and it just was very awkward. Not for me, because I've spoken to girls that are involved in that stuff, but just awkward because it kind of puts a spotlight on them that they're not portraying themselves accurately.
Right. Well, and it's. I think a lot of times when they're hired on as actors, but then as a consumer, you assume that they're not actors, and so it's kind of a disappointment because it's such a niche thing that it didn't used to be cool to be, and it's very odd to see people get paid to pretend to be a nerd. It's like, wow, I remember getting made fun of. Now people make a living at that. Why am I not making a living at that?
Well, that was the funny thing about that is that people say that people wear their nerdiness on their sleeve. As opposed to it being kind of a taboo, kind of closeted subject. Like, I know guys that you wouldn't think would be like, yeah, man, I collect Star Trek toys, and you'd never think that, but they wear it on their sleeve now like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's very true.
Which, I have no problem with that, but I just feel that the mainstreaming of it has watered it down where, it's like you can dress like Steve Urkel now and be cool. I actually saw a funny picture on the internet. It was showing Urkel, and it said, 92 dork, 2011 hipster. Yep, I saw that. That's exactly why I referenced it. See, you're hip to the game. You are hip to the game with that.
I am on the internet far too much.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. So how has social media helped you to grow your site? I've seen a lot of people retweeting your stuff. I like some of the stuff you guys are putting out there, and you've done a really great job of separating this aspect of your work from your other aspect of your work, which is good, just because I'm sure you didn't want it to bleed over and you didn't want people to get put off by that, which is fine, and I commend you for doing it so to the point and so straightforward. Like, usually there's that little blurry line where people are like, hey, well, let me take a look at this, and then before you know it, they come across something and they get all bent out of shape about it.
Right. Yeah, it was something when, I'd come up with the concept, I definitely wanted to keep separate from porn, because I would like to be in the industry, the gaming industry, legitimately. And I know, it's not like people aren't going to figure out that I do porn as well, but I don't want that to be why somebody comes and sees it. I don't want that to be the gimmick. Whether the content is good enough to keep people coming around or not, I didn't want that to be the reason people went. Because if they're going to see porn, they're going to be disappointed for sure. But, sexuality is definitely still a big part of who I am, and that's still going to bleed over no matter what, but it doesn't have to be to sell sexuality to be part of it.
Has that aspect of your career affected you getting into the gaming industry? Has it given you any, I want to say, has it affected you in an adverse manner?
I think the adult industry will always affect everybody in some sort of adverse manner. We're not going to be able to be school teachers very easily or anything like that. But with porn, I think, I always tell everyone my demographic is obviously gamers and nerds and whatnot, and it's what I am already, but it's also the people who still buy collectibles and honestly the people who still buy porn. So there's not many people left to do that, and I think doing what I've done has actually put me in a lot of the right places at the right time to meet the people that can help me to go other places outside of the industry. And I've been really lucky that none of them have really seen it as taboo. There's been a couple, but they haven't seen it as taboo. Like the company they worked for, like, yeah, it's cool, but we can't technically be associated with it, you know. But it hasn't really been that big of an issue. I think it's helped it more than anything because they're already selling that image and covering the AVNs and stuff. So it'd be kind of silly to be like, well, we're going to cover this, but we don't want anybody who works there come over here.
Yeah, we're gonna acknowledge it, but it's not really there. You know, we're gonna do it for ratings, but it's not something we're really proud of. I hate that double talk with stuff like that because I've seen, you know, stuff like that on G4. I've seen it on Showtime. I've seen it, but on G4 I've seen it also, and they water it down to the point where they're trying to make it super PG, and it's like, look, don't kid yourselves. You guys know what you're putting on television. You know, let's not bullshit each other. You guys know the deal, but that's how they choose to operate, you know?
Right. And I think it's just some of the people who are still at the top of the ladder don't quite get it yet, so they think that it has to be dumbed down in a sense, but it's kind of to the point where it really doesn't have to be dumbed down to that anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you feel that we've evolved so much just as a culture of gamers and geeks to see that sort of thing and it not bother us? Like, some of the marketing campaigns I've seen geared towards the male gamer using female gamers do tend to push the envelope sometimes, so I don't understand why so many people get bent out of shape about it.
No, I totally agree. I mean, they use porn actors and stuff as voiceovers in games now. Saints Row is a perfect example. So to act like, you know, I think it's almost like pigeonholing. If you do that for a career, that's all we can see you as. If you're trying to do something else, it's like too much to comprehend.
Well, the mainstream appeal of shifting from, you know, the adult industry into any industry is that your body of work, whatever it may be, is always going to be measured against what you used to formally do. So it's something that's going to probably take years and years and years to reach an equal playing field. But it's unfortunate because more often than not, if you say, you know, and I've seen adult film actresses that go on there and they're like, yeah, you know, I'm a gamer and I like playing this. And they're like, yeah, right, you know, you're just doing it to get people to visit your site. But in doing my homework for this interview, I was like, it's legit. It's on the ball. You know, I saw your G4 stuff. I saw some of the stuff from Comic-Con. You are out there. I also saw your pictures with Frodo. I was very jealous.
Oh yeah, no, he's so nice, man. He's super nice. I'm like, it's one of the, I guess, I mean, yeah, he's a huge celebrity, but he's one of the celebrities I met that I was really impressed with how friendly he was.
In being now more mainstream, who have you met in the gaming community that you were happy to meet, but you felt turned out to be a total douche?
I would say in the not gaming, but in the comic community, I don't really want to out any names, but there was one really famous illustrator that I was very surprised with how he acted and what he asked for.
Wow. Was he like that just as a whole, or was he like that towards you? You don't have to name him, of course, you know. I'm
not sure if he's like that as a whole. He got my number from someone. That's how he contacted me.
One of those. The I got your number from somebody else, and then yeah.
Yeah, but it was funny because it's like he got my number from a comic book store. He's a famous comic illustrator, but take those jobs and insert adult related, and it would have been the same kind of behavior, but I didn't expect it from that
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your bubble burst. I've seen that often. I saw that this weekend, you know, just because I'm a wrestling fan, and I met a guy that was he did comics, and I met him, and I'm like, hey man, you know, big fan, blah blah blah. He's like $20 for a photo. I'm like, okay. Asked him to come on the show. No, I don't do that. I'm like, oh, okay. But he wasn't like, no, you know, I don't do it because he just shut it down completely. So I figured I would ask you, since you've been also you've done the convention circuit and you do all the geeky stuff we do. So it's good to hear that I'm not the only one that gets disappointed.
No, we all find out that Santa doesn't exist sometimes.